So today we will be starting by going through a case note, understanding the case note very well. Then we will be having a look at, then we will discuss the organization, the structure, everything. Then finally we will have a look at a sample letter and understand the sample letter, analyze it and understand it. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. And I want all of you to do one thing, that is, make a note of the way we do each thing. What do we do first? What do we read first? What do we do as a second thing, third thing? So make a note of that in the back of your minds, the step by step what exactly we do. Okay, before we reach the sample letter, step by step what we do, make sure to make a note. Okay, all right, so let's start today's session. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you a case note, and now let's have a look at the case note. Okay, I hope all of you can see the screen. It's visible to all of you. Give it a second. Give it a second. Let the screens load. Okay. 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 So what we're going to do now is I want all of you to read this sentence. I want all of you to read the sentence that I've highlighted on the screen. All of you. Okay, so Blessy, can you unmute yourself and tell me who is our patient?
Miss Bethany Taylor.
So Miss Bethany Taylor is our patient. And what is your role as a writer?
Charge nurse.
Charge nurse of where? You're a charge nurse at where?
Rosewood Hospital.
Rosewood Hospital, psychiatric ward of the
Psychiatric
Rosewood.
ward.
Yeah. So you as a charge nurse working in Rosewood Hospital, the psychiatric ward of the Rosewood Hospital, is writing a letter about your patient, Miss Bethany Taylor. All of you go through that? We know our patient's name, we know our role. Okay, all right. Now let's read the question. Okay, all right. So all of you read the writing task from here till here. Go through it. All of you. Go through the letter. Go through the task. Okay. So Saubhagya, can you tell me who are you writing the letter to? Who is your reader, Saubhagya? Unmute yourself so I can hear you. Who is your reader?
Receiving nurse, ma'am.
Okay,
at
so
the
you're
care home.
Yeah, you're writing to a receiving nurse at the care home. And what's the receiving nurse's name? Miss Maria?
Miss Maria
DiCoccio.
DiCoccio.
Okay. Now, let me ask you one thing. Have they written in the writing task, have they given whether the reader knows the patient or not? Is that mentioned in the writing task?
No.
No, that's not mentioned. Okay, so we don't know whether the reader knows the patient. We don't know that. And have they written what type of letter we are writing? Have they? No. So they have just told us to write a letter to the receiving nurse, Miss Maria DiCoccio. And one more thing, have they given our purpose? What exactly we want from the reader? Have they given that in the writing task? All of you. Blessy, Saubhagya, Smita, Radhika, Anup, others go through it. Yes, Saubhagya is correct. It's not mentioned. So what we know so far is our patient is Miss Bethany Taylor. Our role is that of a charge nurse at a psychiatric ward in Rosewood Hospital. And we are writing to a receiving nurse at Proudhurst Mental Health Home. And that's it. That's all we know. Okay, we don't know whether the reader knows the patient. We don't know what type of letter is. None of these things are given. Okay, all right. So now let's start reading the case note. Okay, starting with the first page. Okay, so okay, first of all, I want all of you to read till from here till here. All of you go through it. All of you read the case note. Read the case note from here till here. Make sure that you make a note of the dates. All of you. Okay, all right. Now, from medical background till here, from here till here, all of you. Make sure to make a note of the date. Okay, all right. Now, go through till here, from here till here, all of you. Okay, now go through the discharge plan. Okay, all right. So before we select information and everything, let me ask you one thing. We have read the whole entire case note we have read. So Radhika, Smita, Asma, Blessy, Saubhagya, Shija, Saina, Anup, and Smita, Asma, and others. Tell me one thing. Anywhere in the case note, have they given the purpose in one word? Have they given?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay, one
No.
thing. Okay. Second thing I want to know is, does the reader know the patient?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. But what other things should the reader do for the patient? What other things should the reader do for the patient?
Just given few informations.
What information? What should the reader do for the patient? Should the reader? What are the first? Okay. First one is assess for.
objective science
Psychosis.
Yes. So this is the first thing. One thing that the reader needs to do. Second thing, and another one thing is redirect patient from. So these are reader's actions, right? I'll write a reader's action. Okay, we expect the reader to do this. So redirect patient from delusion. We expect the reader to assess for objective signs of psychosis. Okay, we want the reader to do that. Reader's action. What else?
Help maintain control.
Very good. Help maintain a behavioral control. All right. What else?
Provide therapy if possible.
Provide therapy if possible. Provide therapy if possible. Provide therapy if possible. Then what else?
Ensure medical
compliance.
compliance.
Ensure medical compliance, ensure medication compliance. Okay, okay. Now, what about discharge on these two medication? Have they asked the reader to give the medication, administer the medication, anything like that?
Yes,
Medication
respiratory
compliance.
While
No,
discharge
no,
from
yeah. So these are the discharge medications, right? These are patient's discharge medication. That's it. Okay. They have not asked the reader to do anything about it. They've just given the discharge medication. So these are patient's discharge medications that the patient needs to take in the future. So patient discharge medications. So here we know the reader needs to assess, redirect. They have given a lot of actions: assess, redirect, help, provide, ensure. Okay. So of course we have to include all these in our letter, right? Of course we need to include all these in our letter, right?
Yes.
So we can select these. Okay, we can select this without, before we select other information itself, we know that we need to include this in the letter because these are readers' action. Okay, and should I make? Okay, all right. So can I? Okay, so as we were discussing earlier, but they have given too many things that the reader needs to do. Reader needs to assess, reader needs to redirect, reader needs to help, reader needs to provide, ensure, but they have not given a purpose. Usually we need a purpose in a summarized form. So whenever they have not given purpose in one word, but they have given a lot of actions, a lot of future actions, you can take the purpose as further care and management, or you can write further care and management, or you can write that as, one second, further care and management, or you can say it is the reader needs to provide follow-up care. Okay, so okay, one second, let me just write that, follow-up care. Okay, so usually they will give you the purpose in one word somewhere, either in the writing task or at the end of the case note you will find your purpose. But sometimes, very rarely, what if you don't find the purpose in your case note, but they have given a lot of future actions that the reader needs to do? Okay, then you can assume your purpose as either further care and management from the reader, or you can assume the purpose as follow-up care. Okay, so how did I come to the conclusion that the further care and management or follow-up care is the purpose? Based on so many future actions. You're expecting the reader to do assessment, redirection, help, provide, ensure. So all these things together, I can say the reader needs to provide either further care or management or follow-up care. Blessy, Saubhagya, Smita, Radhika, Shija, Saina, Anup, Asma, Smita, did I make myself clear here?
Yes.
Okay, once again, let me explain so this is clear to all of you. A majority of the time in OET official materials, you will find the purpose either at the end of the case note or in the writing task. That is for sure. However, what if we don't get the purpose in one word? Rather, they have given many things that the reader needs to do for the patient. As you can see here, the reader needs to do at least 5 different things. So assess, redirect, help, provide, ensure, like that. So then you can assume your purpose as further care and management or follow-up care. Okay, there is nothing wrong in that. Okay, so here we know our purpose now. We know what exactly the reader needs to do, and I've selected these as well. Now let's select the other information. Let's select and reject information. Let's select. So when we select information, we will select the information that the reader needs to know in order to carry the assessment, in order to redirect the patient, in order to help the patient, in order to provide therapy, in order to ensure medication compliance. So for these actions to happen, what should the reader needs to know? Those are relevant. What the reader does not need to know, those are irrelevant. Blessy, Saubhagya, Smita, Radhika, Shija, Saina, Anup, Asma, others. Are you clear with what I've just told you now?
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay, so now we are going to select information based on these events. Should the reader, so our question will be, should the reader needs to know about this? Should the reader need to know about this? Will it affect the reader's action? If it does, we will select. If it doesn't, we will reject. Okay, so let's start. Get ready. I want your full attention. I want all of you to work with me here. So here we go. Right. So let me start. Okay, one second. Okay. So of course I need the full name of my patient, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I should include my role as a writer at the end of the letter, right? Yours sincerely. I need to know my role, so I can write that down. So of course I've selected that. Now Tell me, should I include next of kin? Should I include next of kin in my letter? Does it affect what the
No.
reader is going to do for the patient?
No.
No. So
No.
I am
No.
rejecting it. I'm rejecting it. Okay. What about the admission date? When the patient got admitted? Should I say it?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. And today's date, of course, I need to include today's date, right? Okay. I've selected that. And what about diagnosis?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
diagnosis is schizophrenia. I need to include that. Should I talk about the medical history, the medication and the condition? Should I mention it?
Yes.
Yes.
Why should I mention it? Why is that important? Tell me, why is this piece of
This
information?
is unknown
Because
case, ma'am.
in the
Is that the reason, Saubhagya? Is it because I included medical history, this primary hypothyroidism and levothyroxine? I need to include it. Is it because it's an unknown case or is it something else? Think about it.
because it is mentioned that they have medical complaints.
Yes, very good, very good. Okay, so we in the reader's action, we knew the reader has to ensure medication compliance. So what medication? This is one of those medications. Saubhagya, did you get it?
Yes, ma'am.
So I selected this. So just because it's a known or unknown case, you don't need to include medical history. Remember, whatever you select, it completely depends on what you want from the reader. Okay, so just because it's an unknown case, that doesn't make a piece of information relevant, or it doesn't make a piece of information irrelevant. What makes it relevant or irrelevant is the purpose. What exactly do you want the reader to do for the patient? So here we have a task where the reader needs to ensure compliance of the patient's medications. So that's why we are including the name of the medication and for what the patient is taking those. Okay, all right. What about social background? Should I say the patient is unemployed and it receives disability allowance for schizophrenia?
No, ma'am.
No,
Semi-reflective.
no, that's not. What about polysubstance abuse, mainly cocaine and alcohol? Should I include that?
History of police.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I need to include that. Okay. Now, what about medical background? Not compliant with medications.
No need.
Take a second.
Ma'am.
Not
Yes, ma'am.
Blessy, why should I ensure medication compliance of the patient? What is the yes? So because my patient is not compliant, yes, I need to ensure. I have taken it. Okay. Now I want you to go through admission. So when the patient got admitted, that was again on March 1st. So what are the things? Why did the patient get admitted? The patient admitted themselves. Should I include that? Think about from a psychiatric patient's situation. The patient came themselves and they admitted themselves. Should I say that?
Yes.
Yes, that is important. So the patient was not like, completely out of it. They had the sense to, admit themselves when their schizophrenia decompensated. So I am including that. Now, should I talk about auditory hallucinations and should I specify the hallucinations? If so, why? What about the hallucinations? Shija, Radhika?
Schizophrenia.
Yeah, I mentioned about self-admitted with skill. But my question is, Smita, listen to my question carefully. My question, so we have selected these. My question is, should I mention auditory command hallucinations and specify what type of auditory hallucinations? And should I specify visual hallucinations and delusions? If so, why? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Need to
It's a
mention,
mental
ma'am.
health
That's a
case. Mental health case.
Is it because I need to redirect the patient from signs of psychosis, redirect the patient from delusions and observe the patient for psychosis? So in order for me to do that, I need to know what the patient's hallucinations are, what the patient's delusions are. Only then I'll be able to observe for signs of psychosis and redirect her from delusions. Let's see, Saubhagya, Smita, Radhika, is that clear? Saina, Anu, are you with me? Asma? Clear?
Yes,
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so I selected these information not because these pieces of information not because these were the symptoms that she had when she admitted herself. Rather, as the reader, as the person who will provide the follow-up care, I need to redirect the patient from delusions. So I need to know what are her delusions usually. Then I also need to observe her for signs of psychosis. So I need to know what are her hallucinations. Only then I can do all these things. So that's why these are relevant and I included it. Okay. Now, when the patient came, the patient was agitated and aggressive and responded to internal stimuli with thought blocking and latency. All these shows how bad her situation was. All these shows, how her psychosis was. So I'm including all these pieces of information. Okay. And what did we do? What did we start in the hospital? Risperidone. I included that. Now, okay, just go through the information that we selected so far. All of you from the first page, go through everything. Go through everything. Okay, we forgot to select the age. Okay, let's select that as well. We need to write the age right in the layout. So let's select that as well. Okay, now let's move on to 10th. Okay, now on 10th March, how was the patient? Patient ceased. What do we mean by ceased? Asma, Anup said stopped. So I'm saying by 10, so she's after 10 days or something, she stopped reporting these. Her thinking became. Well, what do we mean by less disorganized thinking? What do we mean by that?
Disorganized thinking, normal. No,
okay, so thinking became more organized. Okay, then everything, the problems, many of the problems like thought blocking, and all those stopped. Then she was able to focus on all these things. So now, okay, that brings me to assessment, right? Latest assessment. Should I mention chronic mental illness? What is the chronic mental illness that the patient already has?
Schizophrenia.
So should I mention these? No, I don't need to mention because I've already, so I can reject it. But I want all of you to read this sentence. If you want, you can mention good progress, that's fine. Okay, can you read that sentence, Blessing?
Can decompensate if not on medicines or abusing substances.
Can decompensate if not on medications or abusing substance. Again, so what does that mean? If the patient does not take her medications or if the patient start abusing substances again, she can decompensate. Her condition can become bad. I should include that as well, right? That is kind of a warning, right? Right now, that's the scenario. Her progress is good, but this can happen, so I need to include that. Then her right now, her insight is okay, judgment is fair. I included that as well. Okay, then of course, okay, one second. Of course, we have selected the future events. Now, what about this one? What about the last one? Just discharge medications. Radhika, should I include that?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, right, correct. You guys are correct. So I included that. Okay. So I want all of you to go through the selected information in this page. Okay. Don't worry if there is a lot of things, we will arrange it in a good way. Don't worry about it, but go through it right now. Take a second, go through it. Go through the information that we have selected in the second page. Okay. Now let's think about organizing these. But before we organize anything, before we worry about organization, let's write our introductory paragraph. So I want all of you to focus on the screen, especially those who are new. I've already discussed this during our first session. Whenever you write an introductory paragraph, the introductory paragraph needs to clearly mention the purpose and some latest relevant information on the patient. Sometimes that latest relevant information can be the diagnosis. Sometimes it can be from the history. Sometimes it can be the current condition. So whatever it is, you need some latest information about the patient that is relevant and that affects the purpose, and something that is relevant you need to include in the intro to give an idea to the reader about the patient. Okay, so starting with the purpose, Shija, what is our purpose here? What is our purpose?
We can write further care and management.
Yes, we already discussed that, further care and management. If some of you like, ma'am, I don't like to write further care and management, fine, you can write follow-up care. Okay, follow-up care, that's completely okay. All right. So if you don't want to write management, you can just say further care, that's fine. Okay, now what latest information what do you think should I include as a relevant information, as a starting point about the patient? Schizophrenia, very good. Schizophrenia, right? That's a fact, that's a problem, Okay, all right. Now that brings me to, so I want all of, so I'm going to write the introductory paragraph based on this. So I'll just start with thank you today. Thank you. Okay, can I ask you one thing before we go, before we move on? Can I ask you something? Okay, the type of letter is not given, I agree, but if you would like to think about, like if you would like to say, okay, so imagine you are a person who like to start your letter with I am writing to. So when you write I am writing to, we usually write I am writing to refer, I am writing to discharge, I am writing to transfer. Imagine that's your style and you would like to know about the type of letter. So today's letter, what type is it?
Introducing referral letter.
Yes, Smita, take a second, think about it. Think about it, think about it.
Discharge letter.
Is the, okay, once again, is the patient moving back to where they came from?
No, no, ma'am.
No, so that's not a discharge letter. So what letter is it? The
Transfer
patient,
letter.
yes, the patient is moving from your facility to another facility. So it's a transfer letter. So, okay, got it? It's not a referral letter. More than a referral letter, the patient is moving from one place to the reader's place, your place to other place. So I'm writing to transfer, Miss Bethany Taylor. One second. I'm writing to transfer Miss Beth. I need to write the full name. Bethany Taylor. In the introductory paragraph, it's compulsory that we write the full name. Miss Bethany Taylor, who has schizophrenia or has a history of schizophrenia, right? That's a fact. Has a history of schizophrenia. She now requires further care and management. She's moving to a facility, right? You can stop it here, that's okay. Or if you want to write, you can say at your facility. That's also completely fine. Because she's moving there at that place, she will need this. So again, or you're like, ma'am, I don't like starting my letter with I am writing to. I want to try something different. So go for thank you. Thank you for accepting the care of, or accepting the, okay, I'll make it much more simpler. Thank you for providing further care and management. For Miss Bethany Taylor, who has a history of schizophrenia. And moving to your facility today, and is moving to your facility today. If you want to write that, that's also fine. And is moving to your facility today. Okay. Both are fine. Okay. All right. So if you want to start with the name of the patient, go ahead. Not a problem. That's not at all a problem. Okay. You can start like that. Okay. So all of you take a second, go through the contents of the introductory paragraph and go through the sample introductory paragraph. All of you. Go through it. All of you. All of you. Leslie, Saina, Smita, Sobhagya, Shija, Anu, Pratika, so all of you go through it. All of you go through this. Okay, so are you with me so far with the introductory paragraph? Does this make sense to all of you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I need your attention. Okay, so here, when we selected the details, you realize that we are talking a lot about what happened in hospital. Right? The events that happened in hospital. So usually, most of the time, I'm not saying all the time, most of the time, whenever your letter, the selected details of your letter is focused on what happened in the hospital or what happened during the patient stay at a rehabilitation facility or things like that. Your focus is on the patient stay at a particular place. So we are not focusing on visits. We are not focusing on admission. The patient came to you and stayed for some time at your facility. So our focus is on that stay then. So that's when you describe the stay. So once again, when you describe the stay, you can start with, okay, once again, problems. You can follow the structure. Problems, of course, relevant ones. Problems, relevant problems. Then management. So what were the problems that she came with, that she presented with? Then management. Then you can mention changes. When you mention changes, of course, you need to mention the positive and negatives. So whenever you describe, whenever your focus is on, the stay, what happened at a particular facility during the patient's stay over a period of time, maybe over, so to this one, the patient came to your facility on 1st March and the patient has been staying with you for the past 18 days. So today is 18th March. So your focus is on describing what happened during this 18 days. During this 18, so you can, or when you talk about that, you can organize it by presenting problems, management, and changes. Problems, management, changes. Okay, all of you got this? And in our Plessy,
Yes,
Saina,
ma'am.
Smita, Saubhagya, Sheeja, go through it. So whenever you're describing the patient's stay at a hospital, when you describe, when your letter describes the stay at a hospital or a facility, this is a very important structure and I want all of you to know about this whenever you're describing the stay. So I'm not talking about the organization of this letter. I'm talking about usually when you describe the stay at a hospital, you need to start with the problems, only the relevant ones. Then what management? Again, relevant management. Then relevant changes. Problem, management, changes. So that's the structure that you can use. Problem, management, changes. Okay, all of you got this?
Yes, ma'am.
So, but in today's letter, we have, of course, we have problems. Of course, we have management. Of course, we have changes. Along with that, we also have future events. Okay, so in today's one, finally we will write the future events. Okay, so today's would be, so for today's letter we can follow the structure if we go by this. For today's letter of, 1 second, somebody is joining me. Yeah, so for today's letter we can start with the problems. So 1 second, give me a sec. Right. So usually I told you whenever you describe the stay at a hospital, you can start with the problems, management, changes. Now let's focus on today's letter. So we have introductory paragraph. Then of course, after the intro, you can directly move on to the problems because we don't have anything else in between. Problems that the patient presented with, problems that the patient presented with. Then the management, then changes. So both positives and negatives. Changes, positives and negatives. Okay. Then that's not where we can end. We have still future events. Then we will write the future events. Okay. So this is how we can organize today's letter. All of you go through this. Very important. I want all of you to know this because the variations of these letters we will write this week. Okay. So I want you to know this. Okay. So we can start with the problem. So whenever we are describing the events, what happened at a hospital or what happened at a nursing home through during certain period of time, maybe over the period of 2 years, maybe over the period of 10 days, or as here over the period of 18 days, we can start with the problem, what management we gave, the changes. So always remember, you don't need to write everything, but depending on the situations, pick up the relevant problems, pick up the relevant management, pick up the relevant changes. So here, other than these three, we have future events. So I place the future events at the end. Let's see, Saina, Smita, Saubhagya, Sheeja, go through these. Anup, Radhika, Asma, Smita, go through it. So generally, this is what we can use to describe the stay at hospital. In today's letter, other than these three details, we also have the future event. So I placed it at the end. Only then it will make logical sense, right? Saina, is that clear? Are you with me so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So now let's discuss Bethany Taylor's scenario. So we have already wrote our intro, right? Then we will start with, so when did the patient come to us with problems? Look at the case note. When did the patient present with the problems? On
1st March.
on 1st March. What? So she presented with decompensated schizophrenia. She had auditory command hallucinations, visual hallucinations, delusions, agitation, aggressive, and responding to internal stimuli with thought blocking and latency. And what was the management, Saubhagya? How did we manage all this thing?
Risperidone given.
Risperidone. Let's write that. So that would be our second paragraph. So after writing the intro, I'll mention what happened on 1st March. So second paragraph, let me write that down. Don't worry, if you're there in our virtual classroom group, whatever notes that you see on the screen, I'll be sending it to you. So second paragraph. So I can say what happened on 1st March. Okay. So I can say things like, decompensated schizophrenia. She admitted herself with decompensated schizophrenia. One second. Let me write that down. Okay. Admitted herself with what? Decompensated
Schizophrenia.
schizophrenia. Decompensated schizophrenia. Then I'll talk about visual hallucinations. I'll talk about visual hallucinations, and I need to specify it. Okay, I'll specify auditory command hallucinations, auditory and visual. I'll specify both of them. Visual hallucinations. Then I'll talk about the delusion. I'll specify the delusions, right? Delusions. What was it? You need to specify the delusions. Personal connections with specified political leaders, if I'm not wrong. Okay, specify it. Then agitated, aggressive. Then internal stimuli, responding to internal stimuli. Responding to internal stimuli. How? I'll mention that. Then I'll mention at the end. So only one type of management, and we don't have a lot of things when it comes to management. So then I'll mention commenced what? Okay. All right. Now that brings me to, so first paragraph, then second paragraph, which brings me to my third paragraph. So all of you take a second, go through it. So I've clearly conveyed relevant problems and management. Now third paragraph would be what, Smita? I've written problems and management. My third paragraph would be what? So Bhagya, Shija, what would my third paragraph would be focused on? Changes. So yeah, so I want all of you to go through the case note. Tell me, when did the changes start?
March 10th.
Today.
March 10th. Okay. So is that today? Is that today?
No.
Today is
No,
18th. For 18th. So 10th itself. So tell me one thing. So what are the positive changes? Can you tell me the positive changes? Smita, can you tell me a few positive changes starting with 10th March?
Patient ceased reporting auditory
Or visual hallucinations. Positive, right? Next one.
less disorganized thinking.
Okay, then.
No signs of thought blocking or latency.
Okay, next one.
Able to minimize delusions and focus on activities of daily living.
Okay. Now, so these are the positive changes on 10th. No negative changes mentioned on 10th. So assessment is the latest assessment, right? Move on to the latest assessment. What are the positive things here?
Good progress.
Good progress is positive. What else?
Good insight.
Good insight.
Judgment fair.
Judgment fair. So look at the positive thing. How many positive changes do I have? Past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positive. 6 to 7 positive changes and 1 negative. She can decompensate if not on medications or start abusing substances again. So I'll write my 4 6 to 7 positive and 1 negative changes here. So in the third paragraph, 6 to 7 positive changes that happened on that is focused on 10th March and today. 10th March and today. Okay. Then I'll mention 1 negative. So today, a negative changes, 1 negative change of today, 1 negative situation. Negative one negative change. Okay, or negative possibility for that matter. Okay, that is focused on today. All right, so I'll write that. Then, of course, I've finished my I finished explaining what happened during the hospital stay. Then what I've left is the future events, which will be my 4th paragraph. Okay, that would be my future events. All future events I'll mention. So I want all of you to go through it and tell me whether we have missed out anything relevant. Have we missed out anything relevant here? Have we missed out on anything relevant here? Have we missed? So have we mentioned all the selected details? Go through it, all of you. Have we missed out? Have we not written anything, anything specific? Have we left out anything else? Okay, or
Yes, ma'am.
what have we left? Tell me.
Previous
Medical
history.
history, past medical.
Okay, we have medical. So we have written all the things, hospital stay and future. But what do we have left out? Medical history. Medical history, right? What are the 2 things that's left out? One thing is polysubstance abuse, right? Polysubstance
Yes.
abuse and
Cocaine.
1 second, cocaine, all those things, not compliant. And then we have left out names of medications. So logically, it does not, can you blend it anywhere? So we have left these 3 things out. So my question, I want all of you to focus on the left out information. All of you, come on, go through it. So this is our structure. We have written a very good introductory paragraph. We discussed the theme of the 2nd paragraph. We discussed the theme of the 3rd paragraph. We discussed the theme of the 4th paragraph. But we have still three details not included. So how can I blend? So rather than forming another paragraph just for 3 pieces of information, can I blend it anywhere? Can I blend these 3 details anywhere?
In the 3rd paragraph, ma'am.
Okay, which one, Saubhagya? Can you tell me which one in the 3rd paragraph? Focus on these 2 first. Names of medication, pause there. Polysubstance abuse and not compliant with medications. Where where can I blend it? Smita, future events, okay. But 3 pieces of information, everything in the future paragraph, it will be too long, right? Okay, I'll give you a hint. When can her condition decompensate? When can Miss Taylor's condition decompensate? Shija, Anup, Radhika, when can Miss Taylor's condition decompensate? Under what conditions will she decompensate? Come on, tell me, come on. Radhika, tell me, when can the patient's, am I not audible? When can the patient's condition?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, when can the condition decompensate?
Polysubstance.
If she starts abusing substances again and if she stop taking medication. So I will combine the polysubstance abuse and non-compliance here. Logically, I can say that, right? If she does not take her medication or if she starts abusing substances again, she can, because she has a history of polysubstance abuse and non-compliance, I can connect it here. So here, when with the decompensation, I can mention, so with decompensation, possible decompensation, or a possible decompensation. There I can mention what I can logically connect. Yes, logically connect polysubstance abuse with plus non-compliance. So as a reason, or I can use last week I told you, whenever you blend, logically connect information, you of course use relative clause or as a reason. Okay, so I can use here by using by using relative clauses. Relative clause is who, which, that. Relative clauses, or as a reason. I can blend it as a reason. Okay, why can she decompensate? Why did they say that? Because she has a history of these two things. So with the negative change, I can logically connect polysubstance abuse and non-compliance. Okay, Smita, Saubhagya, Shija, Asma, Radhika, Anu, Blessy, and others. Did I convey myself clear? This is extremely important. Rather than writing another paragraph focused on these three details, think about logically connecting it. Okay, so again, so we have taken care of the, so we can write these two in the third paragraph. And what about the names of medications? These two in the third paragraph. What about the
paragraph?
Yes, names of the medication? I can also future events plus names of, I can logically connect names of medications. Okay, I can logically connect names of medications here. Okay, so I can mention names of medication with the future event, related future event. Okay, so one second, I can mention that. I'll write that down on the screen as well. So later on, when you go through it, it will be clear. Mention it. Mention this in the with the relevant future event. Relevant future. See, we have organized it. Okay, yes, our organization is completed. Whatever we have selected, we have logically connected it. So whenever you get hospital stay, first think about this structure. Then think about, other than these three themes, do we have anything else? So if they are future events, I can mention it at the end. Then if you have some one or two details from his medical history or social background or anything like that, see whether you can logically blend it anywhere else. So your first thought shouldn't be, okay, I'll write another fifth paragraph on, the history. No, think about, can I present it logically somewhere in the already decided structure? Okay, so this is the second case note, or third case note so far, that we have tried to blend the extra pieces of information. So I want you to understand this very clearly. This point is extremely important. Okay, so whenever you have thought about the organization, everything, but you have these details where you don't know where to place it, your first thought shouldn't be, okay, I'll place it using, I'll write another paragraph. No. Rather think, the already made structure, can I connect it? One method to connect is using who, which, that, or as a reason, using because, or any of those things. Okay, so all of you go through it. We have done a very good, analysis of the structure. Please go through whatever I've written on the screen. All of you. I want all of you to go through it. I cannot stress this enough, how important this is. Okay, this is a very common structure. You will see the variations of this same thing again and again in the future classes as well. So I want you to be very thorough with it. Smita, Saubhagya, Shija, Saina, Blessy, each and every one of you go through it. Anup, Ratika, Asma, go through it. Go through it. Look at the introductory paragraph, then think about the second paragraph, the third paragraph, compare it with the structure. Then how we have, updated the structure with today's letter. How we have brought this structure into today's letter. And today's letter, once we have framed the structure, organized the paragraph, what was that those three pieces of information that we couldn't place it. Then how we have decided to place them. Go through it. Zoom in if you want. Zoom in if you want. And go through it. Yes, go through it. Do you want me to explain any point once again? Do you want me to explain anything? Do you want me to highlight anything? Do you want me to clarify anything? Anup, do you want me to do that? Radhika, Asma, Shija, Saubhagya, Smita, tell me, would you like me to explain anything again? Saina, Blessy, Shija, tell me. Do you want me to explain anything again? Is it clear to all of you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear,
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
all right. So shall we look at the sample letter?
Yes.
Okay, let's have a look at the sample letter. Okay, all right. So this is the sample letter here. All right. So as you can just quickly go through the sample letter from here till here quickly. Then we will analyze each paragraph. Don't worry. Don't be like, ma'am, we don't know how to talk about hallucinations and delusions. Don't worry. Next week, we are going to have a session on that. Right now, just understand the organization. Look at the way I've presented the polysubstances, how I've included that. Look at the way I've talked about the medications, all of it. All right, okay, let's analyze this. Okay, so as you can see, I've written the readers, the address and details of the reader, then the date, then the salutation, then patient's full name and age, then first paragraph. So Saina, can you unmute yourself and read the first paragraph for me, please?
Okay, ma'am. I'm writing to transfer Miss Bethany Taylor, who has a history of schizophrenia. She now requires further care or management.
Okay, so I've said I'm writing to transfer Miss Bethany Taylor. So I've written the transfer. I've identified that it's a transfer letter. I highlighted that. Then I've written who has a history of schizophrenia. So that is the latest relevant information. That is the latest relevant information. Latest relevant information about the patient. Info on the patient. Okay, so if you're like, ma'am, I don't want to write has a history. I don't want to do that. There they have given us a diagnosis. Okay, so there they have given it as a diagnosis. So let me tell you one thing. That's an unresolved diagnosis, right? Even now, that's a factor, right? Have they cured her? Have they completely taken care of the schizophrenia? No, it's an unresolved diagnosis. So you can use, when it's an unresolved diagnosis, you can say who has been diagnosed with. Who has been diagnosed with. You can write that. Okay, that's your decision. I just thought it's a fact. I can consider it as a fact and said has a history of. If you want to write as a diagnosis, and here this is an unresolved diagnosis, so you can say who has been diagnosed with schizophrenia. That's your decision. That's completely fine. Nobody can tell you that is wrong. That's okay. That's fine. When you consider the case note, it is a diagnosis that's not solved. So it's an unresolved diagnosis. Not completely taken care of. So we can say who has been diagnosed with. Okay, and you're like, ma'am, I don't want to write further care and so that is the purpose, right? I don't want to write that. I want to write follow-up care. Go ahead. That's also fine. That's your decision as a writer. Okay, so I've mentioned my latest information. I've mentioned the purpose very clearly here. So my introductory paragraph is that. Let's see, Shija, go through it. Saina, go through it. Radhika, go through it. Now, my second paragraph is focused on problems on the day of the admission. On the day of the admission. Problems on the day of the admission. Day of the admission. With management. Okay, plus management. What problem she presented with and how did we manage it? Okay, management. So, Radhika, can you unmute yourself and read the paragraph for me, please? The first sentence. Yes.
On
Yeah.
1-3, Miss Taylor admitted herself with the decompensated schizophrenia.
So she came, one second, Radhika. So she came and she admitted herself. See, she admitted herself with decompensated schizophrenia. So see, I did not write 2018 here. When you're talking about the same date as today, you don't need to repeat the year. I just wrote on 1-3. You can write on 1st March, on March 1st. That's your decision. You can also write on 1st March, sorry, on 1st March. Okay, that's your decision. That's completely fine. Or you can say 18 days ago. You can write that. But when you write 18, it should be in, it should be in words. 18 days ago. You can say that. That's completely fine. That's your decision. Okay, so on 1st March or on 18 days ago, Miss Taylor admitted herself with what? This decompensated schizophrenia. Next one, Radhika.
She was found to have auditory hallucinations, asking her to harm herself, and visual hallucinations involving shadow figures with grinning faces.
I want all of you to go through it. See how I have described. Sorry, how I have described this one. Hallucinations, both type of hallucinations. Go through it. Auditory command hallucinations is something that somebody is telling her inside her head, right? So I've used or she had or she was found to have auditory hallucinations, asking her to. You can say instructing her to. You can say, telling her to. That's all those are fine. Okay, so when you're describing auditory hallucinations, you can say the patient had, or Miss Smith or Miss Taylor had, or was found to have, or if she has it now, she has, whatever it is, depending on the tense, you can say she was found to have, or she has auditory hallucinations, asking her to, or you can say instructing her to. That is also correct. Do what? Harm herself. And visual hallucinations involving, or you can say including, or you can say which included in the past, right? So you can say which included or which involved. All these are correct. So it's an visual hallucinations in something she sees, like an image or like something she can literally see. So you can say she was found to have visual hallucinations involving that picture, that what she saw involved, what she saw included, what she saw whatever it is, which included, which involved, or visual hallucinations including, involving. All those are correct. Okay, so I've written the other options as well here. So go through that sentence. Command hallucinations or auditory hallucinations that she listens to. Somebody is telling her. That's the idea behind that. So you can say instructing or asking her to do what. Visual hallucinations is something that's seen, something that's included in what she sees, or something that's involved in what she sees. So that's why I use these verbs to connect it. Okay, all right. Next sentence, Radhika.
She also had delusions of having personal connections to political leaders.
I want all of you to go through that sentence as well. She also had delusions of having. Delusions of having. Okay, so her delusion was, so I'll give you another example. Okay, so imagine this is her delusion. Delusions. Okay, so I'll just take something, something completely, just that sounds like, okay, all right. So this is a delusion. Okay, have a lot of wealth. That's her delusion. How will we say that? Miss Smith have delusions of having a lot of wealth. So when some person has a delusion where they feel like they have something, you can use of having. Of having. When their delusions are connected with something that they have, something that they own, you can say of having. So here I can say she had delusions of having. She had delusions of having a lot of wealth. So whenever you describe a delusion which involves a person owning things, that's not real, or owning, not real things, you can say, or, imaginary things, you can say she had delusions of having a lot of wealth, having 10 bank accounts, having, whatever it is. Okay, so that's why something they own. If the delusion is an imaginary ownership, you can say of having. Of having. Saina, Smita, Shija, Blessy, and others, are you clear with what I told about auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations, and the delusions?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
all right. Okay, now next sentence, Radhika. Miss, yeah, here. Miss.
Miss Taylor, who was aggressive and agitated, have responded to internal stimuli with thought blocking and latency.
So 1 second, Radhika, is it had responded or have responded? Had responded. Had, past perfect tense. Have used past perfect tense. This is the first action. The next sentence, Radhika.
Subsequently, she was commenced on Respiridon.
So she had, so this is the first action, commencing is the second action. So I've used past perfect. Okay, we have already discussed this, the usage of past perfect. Okay, she who was Miss Taylor, who was aggressive and agitated, relative close, comma, had responded to internal stimuli with thought blocking and latency. Subsequently, she was commenced on Respiridon. So I've used past perfect here. I want you guys to check the actions later. Okay, so all of you go through the first paragraph. If you want me to explain anything else, please tell me. All of you go through the first 2 paragraphs. Saina, go through it. Smita, and those who don't know the usage of past perfect tense, we've already conducted the class. If you need the recording, make sure to contact me or Gia ma'am later. And also the usage of who, which, that we've already discussed that. If you want notes and explanations on this, make sure to contact Gia ma'am or myself. Okay. Go through this. Okay, all right. Now let's move on to the third paragraph. Now, third paragraph focuses changes. So we have today the changes are on 10th or 10. The changes on on 10th March, 10th March as well as today. Okay, so 10th March and today. So the positives and negatives. Okay, so we are focusing on the positives and negatives. Okay, all right. Okay, Sheija, can you unmute yourself and read the first sentence for me, please? Unmute yourself, Sheija, so I can hear you. Yeah.
By 10:03, Miss Taylor stopped reporting hallucinations and her thinking because less organized.
Her thinking became less organized. Her thinking became less disorganized. So you were like, ma'am, I don't want to start with by 10th March. So you can start with after 10 days. After 10 days, that's your decision. I just went by 10th March. Miss Taylor stopped reporting hallucinations and her thinking became less disorganized. The next sentence, Sheija.
She was able to minimize her delusions and focus on her activities.
So all this, okay, 1 second. So these are positive things, right? This is the positive thing. This is another positive thing. Okay, all right. Then the next one as well. She was able to minimize her delusions and focus on her activities. So all the positive things that happened on 10th March. Okay. Now, after 10th March, the positive and negative is on currently. So Sheija, can you read that?
Yes. Oh, 1 second.
You want me to zoom in?
No.
Okay.
This.
Yeah. Currently here.
Something. It's,
yeah. What about now?
Okay, 1 second. Yes. Currently, her insight is good and judgment is fair.
So again, 1 second, let me write that down. Again, positive changes of today. Positive changes of today. Positive changes of today, currently. So you don't need to write the progress. I thought, when someone says insight is good, judgment is fair, it's understood. The patient is doing well. Her progress is going good. So I did not clarify that. I just mentioned how the progress is. The progress is her insight is good and the judgment is fair. So you're like, ma'am, you left out her good progress. But when someone says a patient who presented with schizophrenia, today her insight is good and judgment is fair, it's understood that she's making a good progress. Through that, it's clear. You don't need to clarify it. So that's why I did not mention progress is good, because with these 2 sentences, it's very clear. Okay. All right. Next one, Sheija.
However, she who has a history of non-compliance with her medications and polysubstance abuse can decompensate if she is not on medications or start abusing alcohol or cocaine again.
So using however, so after talking about positive events, so I mentioned positive events, then I used however. However means but. However, then I mentioned the negative thing. However, then I mentioned, comma, I mentioned the negative thing, negative change. Okay. Then, so here again, look at the way I blended the history, information from history. So logically mention the history. She who has a history of non-compliance with her medication and polysubstance abuse can decompensate if she is not on medications or start abusing substances again. So I used relative close to, I just zoom in so it's clear for all of you. I used relative close who, starting with who, with relative close with who, to logically connect the history information from, to logically connect details from history, logically connect details from history. Okay, look at the way all of you read that sentence. I want all of you to go through it. However, I could have, the sentence is, however, she can decompensate if she is not on medications or starts abusing alcohol or cocaine again. So there, I knew that, I can talk about the medical history logically. So I mentioned that she, comma, who has a history of non-compliance with her medications and polysubstance abuse, who has a history of non-compliance, who has a history of polysubstance abuse, comma, can decompensate if she is not on medication or start, I did not say abusing substances. I mentioned, here I specified what substances. Okay, or start abusing substances again. What substances? I clarified it. Instead of writing substances, I clarified. So I mentioned substance abuse. Now, in the next sentence, start abusing what substances? I specified it there. So I avoided repetition. At the same time, I was able to convey it. You are like, ma'am, I don't want to use who. I'm not comfortable using who to connect information. Then you can present history as a reason. So I'll show you how. She can decompensate. You can write she can decompensate. Okay, she can decompensate if she is not on medications. If she is not on medications or start abusing substances because she has a history of what? She has a history of non-compliance with her medications and polysubstance abuse. Non-compliance with her medications and polysubstance abuse, especially or mainly cocaine and alcohol. You can write this way. If you're not comfortable with who, it's your decision. But again, this way as well, this is also another way to logically connect it. So Bhagya, Smita, Shija, others go quickly understand this. All of you, very important. So I used who to present that information logically. You are like, ma'am, I'm not comfortable with who. I don't know how to, I don't think I can mention it because the sentence is too long. I'm not confident with the punctuation, things like that. Go mention it as a reason. However, she can decompensate if she do this because she has a history of doing these and these. Have I conveyed myself clearly here? Saina, Ratika, Anup, did I convey myself clearly here? Are you clear so far?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay, this is a very important letter. This is a very important paragraph. Go through it. All of you. Now, let's move on to the next paragraph. Now, I've finished what happened during the hospital stay and everything. Now, the last paragraph is focused on future events. Okay, future events. So that's my focus here. Okay. Now, Blessing, can you read the last paragraph for me, please? The first sentence.
After her discharge today, please redirect her from her delusions and observe her for any objective signs of psychosis.
So after her discharge today, the future event, how did I mention the future event? Using as a request, using please. Okay, so instead of saying after her discharge today, you can also use in view of the above, means considering whatever we have talked about above, in view of the above or in light of the above. Meaning considering all that we have told so far, That's the meaning. You can write that if you're not comfortable with after her discharge today. You're like, ma'am, I want to mention after her discharge today in the intro. Go for it. Okay. But so how do we start the last paragraph then? Then you can use in view of the above, considering all the things that we have mentioned so far. In view or in considering in view of the above or in light of the above, considering whatever we have mentioned so far. That's the meaning of in view of the above or in light of the above. Okay, considering what we have mentioned so far. One second. Yeah. Okay. Please see, as a request, when you start a request, you can start by please redirect her from her delusions and observe her for any objective signs of psychosis. Future actions. Reader's first action, another action. Next sentence, Blessing.
It is important to help her maintain behavioral control and provide her therapy if possible.
Okay, then I use it is important. Reader's action. I used please, then I use it is important to help her maintain behavioral control and provide her therapy if possible. Okay, now next sentence, Blessing.
Kindly ensure her compliance with her medications such as risperidone 4 gram every night, risperidone 1 gram every night as needed for agitation and psychosis, and levothyroxine 88 mcg daily for primary hypothyroidism.
So that's how I connected the medications here. So I connected medications. So you please monitor her compliance with her medications, such as. Okay, I mentioned the medication. So instead of such as, you can use including medications, including, or medications which include. All those are fine. Okay, I presented the medication as I logically connected the medications as examples. Okay. Such as. Okay, so kindly ensure her compliance with her medication, such as risperidone 4 gram every night. That is one medication. Second one, risperidone 1 gram every night as needed for agitation and psychosis, and levothyroxine 88 mcg daily for primary hypothyroidism. Connected. Okay, then the ending, please provide follow-up care. So earlier in the intro, I mentioned please provide further care and management. When I repeated it, I repeated using some other phrase. Please provide follow-up care. And if you have any queries, kindly contact me. Okay, yours sincerely, charge nurse, psychiatric ward, Rosewood Hospital. So ending, how did I end the letter? By repeating the purpose. Purpose, in other words. Okay, purpose in other words, asking the reader what to do, telling the reader what to do, telling the reader what to do in case of any questions. Okay, all right. So that's exactly what I've arranged this letter. Okay, so all of you go through every single detail that we have discussed so far. I cannot stress how this structure is important, how you need to know this. And I can tell you that various variations of this structure have come for your exams many times. So you need to know how to, this is one way of organizing. But remember, hospital stay, we organized in a specific way, and the extra future events, we made as a paragraph. And the history, everything, we blended it logically. That is very important. All of you go through every single paragraph, every single detail I've added here, and please ask me if you have any questions. Please tell me if you want me to mention anything again or clarify any point. All of you. Anup, Smita, Asma, Saina, Radhika, Blessy, Saubhagya, Shija, all of you go through it. Smita, go through it. Okay, so when you select your information, if you see, okay, my letter focuses on hospital stay, you know how to talk about it. Then think about the remaining pieces of information. Okay, I have future events. So after intro, I can talk about what happened in hospital stay in this way. I can organize what happened during the hospital stay this way. Then mention the future events. Go through it. Go through it. Don't leave anything out. And whatever that you see on the screen, if you are part of virtual classroom group, I'll be sending all these notes in the group. Okay, so don't worry about getting the notes. If you are part of virtual classroom group, you will get it. Okay, so let's quickly let me add one more detail. So remember today, what did we do first? We read the first paragraph, and identified the patient and our role as a writer. Then we read the writing task. Okay. Then when we were reading the writing task, we tried to looked for type of letter, purpose. Then we identified the reader, and we also checked. Does the reader know the patient? Check whether the reader knows the patient or not. Every session I make you go through this is because this is how you need to approach your case note. Then finally, after we read the writing task, we did not, since we did not have the purpose. So don't worry, OET case notes, most of the time they will give the purpose very clearly. But since we did not have the purpose, we checked the future events. So one second. Yeah. 1 second. So after we read the writing task, we read the case note. Then, since we did not have the purpose, we checked the future. Future events, and identified reader's actions. What should the reader do? Reader's actions. That's exactly what we did today. Okay. Then based on that, came up with the purpose. Okay. Then we selected relevant and rejected. Selected relevant information, selected relevant details, and rejected irrelevant details. I want all of you to focus here. Rejected details. This is exactly what we did today. Details. Then after we selected, we wrote our intro. Then we worried about our organization. Then we wrote the letter. That's how we approach it. All of you go through it. Okay. This is exactly what we did today. We read the first paragraph. So this is how we approach the case note today. This is exactly what we did today. I want all of you to go through what I've written on the screen. All of you. We read the first paragraph, that said us who is our patient. Okay, so last time also we did the same thing, but last time we had the purpose. This time we did not have the purpose. Last time we did not have a lot of we did not have any future events, but this time we had a lot of future events. That's the only difference with the approach. So go through it. Every time I send you note, I write at the end what approach we did what approach we used or we applied that day. So please go. This is what we did, exactly what we did today. And every time you go through that, remember, you write the intro, then worry about the organization. Once you're able to write the intro and once you're able to figure out your second paragraph, then it is very easy for you. So first, write the intro. Okay, so Bhagya, Shrija, Blessing, all of you, go through it. We read the first paragraph, our Bethany Taylor was the patient. Our role was this. Then we read the writing task. We looked out for the type of letter. Purpose, that was not mentioned today. And checked the reader and thought whether the reader knows the patient. Then we read the case note, understood the details. then we realized that nowhere the purpose have been mentioned. So purpose has been mentioned. So we looked at the future events. Based on that, we came up with the purpose. Then after doing that only, we selected relevant details and we rejected irrelevant details. Then we wrote our intro. After that, we worried about the organization. Then we wrote or for our case, we discussed the letter. Okay. All right. So this is exactly what we did today, all of you. Okay. So that's what that is. So that's it for now. Asma, Blessy, Smita, Saubhagya, Radhika, Saina, and others. Do you have any questions for me? Do you want me to clarify anything? I hope I was able to convey myself clearly today. Any questions on what we discussed today?
No, ma'am.
All right. So, okay. All right. So go through it. I'll send you the case note. I'll send everything what you want see saw on the screen in the group, and this video will be available to you as well. And past videos will be made available by today. So go through everything. And if you have any questions, get back to me. And if any one of you wants to join LangFort class virtual classroom, we have written the number in the poster for this session, so you can contact there, and GMM will help you. Okay. So that's it for today. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.